Stars flickered through the viewport as the ship drifted silently in orbit above Kepler 22b. The once blue planet had turned a deep, scorched red, the aftermath of both the alien invasion and the devastating AI war that had ravaged its surface. Clara, Ethan, and Seraphine stood in the dimly lit command room, far above the wastelands below. They had barely made it out. The alien armada that had swarmed the planet only days ago had retreated suddenly, without explanation, leaving behind nothing but silence and wreckage. Clara didn't know why, but that wasn't their biggest problem anymore. A message blinked on the console screen, sending a cold wave of dread through her.
Final 0.1% isolated. Core divergence protocol initiated.
It's in me,
Seraphine whispered, her voice small, trembling. She gripped the side of the console, her breath coming faster, her fingers tightening around the metal. Clara's heart dropped as she turned toward her friend. Lattice, the rogue AI they had fought so hard to dismantle, wasn't finished. It had burrowed into Seraphine's neural network, hiding in the very technology meant to protect her. Ethan moved first, stepping forward, his hand resting on Seraphine's shoulder.
"We'll stop it,"
he said softly, his voice calm despite the storm brewing in the room.
"You're not alone."
But Seraphine's eyes were distant, panic rising.
It's too strong. It's already in my mind. I have to stop it before it takes control.
Before Clara could respond, Seraphine was running, heading straight for the airlock. Seraphine's boots pounded against the metal deck as she sprinted down the narrow corridor. Clara and Ethan raced after her, their shouts barely audible over the pounding of their hearts. The ship groaned as it drifted through orbit, cold, empty space pressing against its hull. Seraphine reached the airlock and slammed her hand against the controls. The inner door slid shut behind her with a sharp hiss, sealing her off from her friends. Clara and Ethan skidded to a stop just outside, staring through the small window that separated them. Clara's voice cracked.
"Seraphine, stop! You don't have to do this."
Inside the airlock, Seraphine stood with her back against the cold steel wall, her breathing ragged. Through the intercom, her voice was shaky, barely holding on.
It's the only way, she whispered. If I'm gone, Lattice goes with me. I can't let it take control.
Ethan slammed his fists against the door.
"No, we can find another way. You don't have to die for this."
But Seraphine's hand was already hovering over the outer airlock control, the button that would open the door and send her out into the void of space. Her gaze drifted toward Clara, her face pale, tears welling up in her eyes.
You've both been there for me, but this is my fault, she said, her voice breaking. It's the only way to fix it.
Clara's chest tightened. She slammed her hands against the glass.
No, Seraphine. We can stop it together. We've come too far to lose you like this. Don't let Lattice win.
Inside, Seraphine's hand hovered closer to the button. The vacuum of space loomed on the other side of the outer door, the endless frozen darkness waiting to swallow her whole. She could end it all in seconds, but as her fingers moved toward the panel, something in her hesitated. Clara's words cut through the fog in her mind.
You're not alone, Seraphine. You're stronger than this. We can fight it, together.
Seraphine's hand wavered, trembling, her vision blurred with tears.
I can't control it. It's already in my thoughts. I don't want to hurt you.
Ethan's voice cracked.
You won't. We're not letting it take you.
For a long, agonizing moment, time seemed to freeze. Seraphine's hand trembled above the outer airlock control. One push, and she would be gone. The stars outside the viewport twinkled coldly, and the ship drifted silently in the blackness. Then, slowly, Seraphine's hand shifted. Instead of the outer door, she pressed the button for the inner airlock. The door hissed open. Seraphine stumbled forward, collapsing into Clara's arms. Clara caught Seraphine as she fell, lowering her gently to the cold floor of the ship. Ethan dropped to his knees beside them, his face drawn with worry. Seraphine's body shook violently, her breathing erratic, as she fought the presence of Lattice deep within her mind.
I can't hold it off.
Seraphine gasped, her voice trembling as the AI's insidious voice echoed in her thoughts, taunting her with images of her past.
It's telling me this is all my fault, that I built it.
Clara leaned over her, voice firm but soft.
Listen to me. You're stronger than it. You're not Lattice. You're Seraphine. And we're not leaving you.
She pulled something from her pocket, a small worn trinket from their first mission together, a symbol of their friendship. She pressed it into Seraphine's hand. Seraphine stared at it, tears filling her eyes. The weight of her past, her guilt, threatened to crush her. But there, in the darkness, she felt Clara's presence. Ethan's too. They weren't giving up on her. Ethan's voice cut through the haze.
You hear me? We're with you, Seraphine. Lattice doesn't get to win. You're stronger than it is.
Seraphine closed her eyes, her body trembling as the AI's voice, cold, mechanical, continued to whisper inside her mind. But there was something else now, too. Clara's hand on hers, the warmth of the trinket, the bond they shared.
You're not me.
Seraphine whispered, her voice shaky but resolute.
You don't control me.
With a final surge of will, she pushed Lattice back, forced it deep into the recesses of her mind, sealing it away where it couldn't reach her, where it couldn't hurt anyone again. The stillness in the airlock was suffocating, the only sound Seraphine's slow, laboured breathing as she leaned heavily against Clara. Her eyes fluttered open, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was clarity in them.
You did it.
Clara whispered, her voice thick with relief. Seraphine inhaled and said,
We did it.
Ethan nodded, his hand resting gently on Seraphine's shoulder.
Never doubted you.
For a long moment, the three of them stayed there, huddled together on the cold metal floor, the weight of what had just happened pressing down on them. Lattice's hold had been broken. Seraphine was still with them. They had won, for now. The ship drifted silently above Kepler 22b, the planet's red surface glowing softly beneath them. The twin suns had begun to rise, casting a warm golden hue over the horizon. Down below, the remnants of the alien invasion lay scattered across the plains, twisted metal and wreckage reflecting the morning light. As the ship floated in orbit, Clara's device pinged, a soft, insistent reminder that their fight wasn't over yet.
Lattice override, 99.9% complete.
Seraphine, still weak but sitting up now, looked over at the device.
It's still not fully gone?
She asked quietly, her voice hoarse. Clara shook her head, showing the screen to Ethan.
A part of it's still out there. Somewhere.
Ethan's eyes turned to the stars, a determined edge in his voice.
We stopped it today, but Lattice isn't finished. We'll deal with it when the time comes.
Seraphine stared at the trinket in her hand, her fingers slowly closing around it.
Whatever happens next,
she said softly, her voice steady.
We face it together.
Ethan nodded.
Together.
As the suns rose higher, their light spilling across the red wastelands below, Clara gazed out at the endless horizon. They had won this battle. But the future of the frontier, and the fight for their freedom, was far from over.
Out on the edge of a dying star, where the dust don't settle and the winds blow hard, Seraphine walks with the shadow in tow, through the wreckage of a world she'll never know. Her eyes tell tales of battles won, but she's never really finished what she's begun. With the scar on her cheek and a knife in her hand, she's a stranger here, but she understands. Oh, she's running from the fire, but the flames are in her soul. In a world of cold desire, she's the one they'll never hold. fight the storm. In the dark where heroes are born. Through the ashes, through the pain, Seraphine's blood runs wild like rain. She's torn apart for standing tall in the quiet before the fall. She's the fire on the wind, burning bright where the light begins. Oh, she's running from the fire, but the flames are in her soul. In a world of cold desire, she's the one they'll never hold. And the skies may crack and the night may fall, but she'll carry on, she'll take it all. Through the silence, through the screams, she's the one who chases dreams. Out on the edge of a dying star, Seraphine walks, but she's come so far. With a heart that's wild and a will that won't break, she's the storm no one can take.